Yeah, I just, before we go anywhere, acknowledge you, Eric, and I mean it from the heart, as an absolute genius and an original. I may not agree with all of what you teach or any of that, but one of the things I think is super admirable about you, and I don't know if we'll have time in this discussion to find out how you did it. I had some assistants. I modeled Richard Bandler. Richard Bandler took me under his wing and taught me NLP personally. But you had no one to model. You did this all on your own. So in addition to being an original and a genius, your tenacity and resilience is remarkable. So at some point, Ice, if it's okay, I'd like to find out how, if Eric can spend like 3 minutes and tell us his process, how you figured this the fuck out, because you must have gone through some serious shit to get this all figured out.
Yeah, it was a long haul of a good 10 years to get to the M3 model, which is a diagram that what it does is it takes the timeline of the pickup from meeting her to beginning a sexual relationship, and it divides it into phases. When I had begun the understanding that this has to happen in phases, I went by a very simple procedural structure known as FMAC. That's how I began. FMAC, it stands for find, meet, attract, close. Now that's only pickup. That did not define anything in mid-game. It did not define anything in seduction. It was just from meeting her to getting her phone number. That was it. That's FMAC. Finding her really isn't a part of the timeline. It's pre-timeline, getting out to the venue to literally be in the presence of a woman or more. Then you have to meet her, which we now call opening, but you have to meet her. Then you have to somehow demonstrate that you have a personality, right? Demonstrate that and attract her and trigger attraction. As David D'Angelo says, attraction is not a choice. And following that, we then, FMAC, find, meet, attract, close. And the close was just a phone number close back in the day. But that wasn't enough. That didn't define my success stories fully. It only defined the pickup, right? From meet to phone number. There's still all the stuff you do on day two, the shared activities that you do on day two, filling the timeline. It takes many hours for her to be comfortable enough to want to seduce you. Women.
At some point, I don't want to. I want to address that, but please finish.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure we have lots of ideas to address and to talk about. But that's where it came from. I started with FMAC, and it turned into something really long at one point. Forsk, close to foreskin. Find, open, rapport. There were basically a bunch of things I wanted to put into the timeline of my typical pickup, right? Ross, where did qualification come from? To me, qualification was talked about in the community, but it was just a gambit. It wasn't a phase. And so I had placed qualification as a phase into the ideal pickup, a situation where if I'm going to turn this girl that I've just met into my girlfriend, what would I want her to know about me? So everything I would want her to know about me before we do the deed, that is kind of what I had put into my structure so that I could hit the waypoints. Like one of the waypoints you'll get in every pickup is the question, so how do you all know each other? There's that waypoint. Well, there are other waypoints as well, and there's waypoints in each phase. So I just backwards engineered my successes and discovered the M3 model. That's what took place. I remember doing it with my buddy Neil Struss at the time, and he was saying, why are you doing this, man? Just go pick up the girl. And I'm like, no, there's a pattern here, and I don't understand it. And the pattern was ultimately that pickups go generally through three physical locations. The attraction location is where you meet them. Then you have to build comfort. So you got to do it somewhere at the comfort location. And then finally, you need some privacy for seduction. And you go to your living room, which is the seduction location. That was mid-game to me. A little bit of comfort is established in attraction. C1 is what I called it. And the objective of C1 was just trust, to build enough trust that you could bounce her from one venue to the next. So she comes and joins you to what is now a C2 location, a comfort building location like Mel's Diner for a bite to eat. And then finally bouncing to your living room, bouncing to the seduction location and escalating from there. So that was mid-game, right? And then end game. And the truth is, I really don't teach a lot of end game because I have to teach practical application in field over 3 days, 3 nights. We go in the clubs. And I believe, this is just my belief, women are better at seduction than men are. At least better than me. Maybe they're not, maybe there are some really good seducers out there. Ross, you're one of them, being able to, being able to, I've seen you perform, whisper sweet nothings in a woman's ear and her pupils dilate. Right? I've seen that. I've witnessed that personally. But if you have attraction and comfort, she'll likely seduce you.
Let me speak into all
Those are my
this.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Please.
thank you for sharing that. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's curious about your process. Thank you for sharing.